right. Well, thanks so much for joining me. We'll see if we get some stragglers in here, but we're going to jump right in and get started because we've got a lot to cover today. So I'm going to quickly do a share screen here, and then we're going to get started.
Hold on 1 second.
Allison, you are unmuted.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. All right, so let's get started. All right, so we're here today to talk about mindset and motivation to help you have a successful business in real estate. So we're going to go over a couple things, and this is going to be more of a workshop today, meaning I'm really looking for interaction. So what I'm going to have you guys do is just type your answers in the chat. Unless you have a question and you want to unmute yourself and chime in. Otherwise, let's just go ahead for the sake of time and type in your comments in the chat. All right, so I'm going to dive into, I was fortunate enough to be in a meeting with our leadership the other day, and Mark went to Austin for one of the KW trainings that they put on for leadership throughout the year, and which was a really nice, small, tight-knit group of, high up people in KW. And so he came back with a whole book of information, and this was a page in that book. And so I thought it was really relevant for what we were doing today. So we're going to start by asking ourselves these questions. And so I would love for you guys to really take a minute to think about, I'm going to say maybe 20 to 30 seconds, because I don't want to spend too much time on this because we've got a lot to cover. But just, answering these questions, and I want you to think harder than who are you? So when we say who are you, like who are you at the core? It's not, I'm Gina and I'm a mom and a wife and a real estate coach. Like who really am I? Who do you envision yourself as? So I'll give you just a few seconds to type that in the chat, if you would. I know I can't see the chat right now while I'm on share screen. All right, we'll go back and look at these. And then what do you believe? What do you believe in? What's something that, you believe that motivates you? Well, that ties into the next question. So what do you believe in? What motivates you? And honestly, if you would want to write these things down, if you were here in person, I would have you guys be writing these down on paper just so that you can go back and reflect too. Would anyone like to unmute themselves and answer any one of those three questions before moving on? No? I see no one is typing in the chat. We'll wait.
Going back to who are you? Are you thinking, are you like wanting us to say like who we feel we are as a person, like qualities of ourselves, or because I know you said not like, oh, I'm a mom, a realtor,
Well, 'cause
this,
we
that,
can
and the
all
other.
say that, right? Like we can
Right,
all
exactly.
say, I'm somebody's daughter, I'm somebody's, friend, like
Yeah,
really deeper at the core, who are you? Because again, we can't make mindset and motivation work if we don't really know the answer to some of these questions, right?
right.
Thank you for chiming in.
I was typing. I'm like, I don't know if this is the right way we're supposed to go.
Yeah, like who you believe yourself to be. Thank you for chiming in. So I'm gonna move on to the next one. Why do you work so hard? What, again, that chimes into what motivates you. Why do you work so hard? And thank you there for your answer, Allison. When is enough enough? You, Michaela? And I have a printout of these so that we can actually it's in the Google Drive so that you can find it later if we don't get through all of them right now. What do you what do you want control over? Like some might say to that one, I want control over my finances. I want control over a group of people I want to, lead. And then what do you fear? I love that answer, Harmisha. Thank you for putting that there. What regrets are you trying to avoid? How do you bring meaning to your life, or how do you make your life meaningful? And then lastly, who are you in the end? Sorry, I know I'm going fast. I don't want us to spend a ton of time on this because we've got a ton to go over today, but I do want you to understand this is a great exercise for you guys to be thinking about to lead us into conversations about today. So I'll leave this up here for a couple minutes so that you guys can think through some of these questions and then we can have a conversation around some of your answers. While you guys are doing that, I'm going to go and shut this door. All right. So who would like to unmute yourself and answer one or two of the questions? Or if I ask each of you just to answer one of the questions, what would that be? We'll start with you, Michaela, since you're on the top of my screen, if you're able to unmute.
Yeah. Did it matter which one I guess I answered?
Whatever one you feel comfortable sharing.
Um, um, I had 5 typed in the chat already, but I didn't send it
Okay.
because we were moving forward.
Moving.
But
Yeah.
the one is enough. Mine was whenever like the negatives outweigh the positives. So
Yeah.
there's one.
I love that. That makes perfect sense. Elaborate on that. So give me an example of that.
I guess like not with real estate, but like with my jobs in the past. Like I was a dental assistant before I was a real estate agent. Um, it was literally probably my most miserable job I've ever been in. So at one
Okay.
point I was like, okay, yeah, I went to like school for this, but like, and I spent a lot of money, but
Yeah.
this is not it for me. So I went and got out of it. So
You didn't love it.
yeah, it's basically like that pro con list. And whenever it's a pretty obvious answer and there's not very much coming to you, then.
I love it. That's a great answer. Thank you. How about you, Karmisha?
Um, I'll go with number 9. How do you bring meaning to your life, or how do you make your life meaningful? Um, Me personally, I believe my answer would be to try new things. Um, for instance, real estate was a new thing, so I
Yeah.
feel like that kind of brought a different meaning to my life. Also recently started coloring. I don't know why. I don't
Okay.
know, just
Soothing. Yeah.
yeah.
Love
So
it.
I guess just trying new things and just trying to find me more.
I love that. Thank you. How about you, Allison?
I'm kind of laughing because I took when is enough in a different direction. If you can
Whenever I
Okay.
read your
Okay.
message, I was like, wait, did I understand that wrong?
No, it's just funny. I always feel like I think backwards from other people, and that's like a prime example because I was thinking more along the lines of like, when do you feel accomplished? Like at what point? And for me, I was not trying to be in a negative way, but like I just feel like there's always more that you can do, more to improve yourself, more to, I always this is a weird example, but I'm like, even on my best days, I would love to go to therapy because people think therapy is so negative, and quite honestly, I don't make time or spend money for it, but just like you can always improve yourself. You can always be a better version of what you are today. So it's just funny how I thought
I don't
backwards.
think it's backwards. I mean, there's a reason it's written very vague because
Yeah,
it's whatever speaks to you. I'm certain Mark had mentioned that there was, many people in the room, not
right.
hundreds, but either way, everybody took the questions in a different manner and answers were completely different.
Okay.
So I don't think that at all.
It just,
But I
yeah, it just
love
made me laugh because when she started talking, I was like, oh my gosh, what I wrote is so like just a different direction. And that's kind of funny how it works. But um, yeah,
I think it could be this. So like, this is not what speaks to me, but I know some people have mentality of thinking, when is success enough? Like someone might say about a very successful person, when is enough enough? You're already successful and you keep going. When's it enough? So like that could mean that, or like what Michaela said, when am I just done? When am I doing something or involved in something that could mean a relationship? That could mean bad relationship. When's enough enough? When's that line for you? So I really think it could go, either direction there. I will answer one too, and I will say, what motivates me. A lot of things motivate me, so I can have a long, long, long answer of this question. But similar to one of the answers that Parmesia put, one of the things that motivates me is having a bigger life than I had in my family growing up. It's funny because my son actually recently asked me kind of this question. He was like, what motivates you to keep going and growing and doing all these things all the time? Like what, where did that come from? Actually, I think he said, like, how did you know? When was the moment, actually, he said, that you knew that you wanted more? I grew up in the inner city in Cleveland. We did not have a lot of money. I mean, I had to wait till Christmas to get a new pair of tennis shoes. Like that was also in the 80s, so it was timely. In the world we live in today, everything's moving very fast, and it's not the same time. But I guess I'll say being poor back then was more acceptable, I guess, than being poor today. Um, so I won't boo-hoo me about that, but so like I always knew for whatever reason, this was not what I wanted. It was not what I wanted for my life. It wasn't what I wanted for my children. So a lot of things motivate me to control the life that I imagine for myself and for my family. So that looks like hard work, success, making money. I mean, we can say it. Like I know people are afraid to say money motivates me. That seems shallow, but money allows us a life that we want. That doesn't mean that we're driving around in a Porsche. That just means that we're driving around in a car that runs, right? So it can mean a lot of things. So I don't think we have to be afraid to say that. We all work hard to be able to get a paycheck someday and then be able to allow us the freedom of the life that we choose for ourselves. So to round that back, I'm not suggesting money is the key thing that motivates me. I just know that money is the thing that's going to be able to give me the life that I want. So therefore, I have little motivational goals, that lead me that path, if that makes sense. So thank you guys so much for sharing on that. I'm gonna jump over to the next slide. So there's a bunch of articles that I put in the drive under the mindset folder. So I would urge you to go back in there, because as I was putting this class together, I just thought there'd be some good, helpful tips in here for you guys to take a look at. So we'll put that in there, and you guys can look at it later. But we're going to talk about, has anyone heard this of the 6 personal perspectives and what that is? Have either of you guys, I don't know if you've ever been in a training class where I've taught this class before, but do you know what the 6 personal perspectives is when I put that on the screen? Does that make sense to you? Or you've never heard of it?
Never heard of it for me.
Okay,
I don't think I
Awesome.
have either.
okay. It looks like, Carmisha said she did not either. Well, good. So this will be your first time around. So let me first talk about what that means. The 6 personal perspectives is a concept or idea that Gary Keller has, put into our KW world. It's in his books. It's something that we teach in our Ignite training when we do Ignite. So I just thought that it was a perfect segue into the topic today, where we started with those questions to kind of start getting you thinking. And we're going to go over each one of them here quickly, and then we're going to go over one at a time just to kind of get you thinking about things. So what is the difference? What is it that differentiates, I get ahead of myself, those who achieve at the highest level from those who don't seem to accomplish as much? So like, wonder why somebody who works in the same job, someone that was raised in the same home, what's the difference? Like we're neighbors, we're friends, we're all around each other. And what's the main difference that could cause someone to be more successful than someone else? And so that is going to lead us into the defining of the 6 personal perspectives. So starting with mindset, attitudes, and approach to life. So we're gonna, again, go through these a little bit quick. There's so much information today. I could teach, just to kind of preface this, and I will teach. I think that I have done the 6 personal perspectives in 3 different classes. And we're going to run through all of them today, a little bit quicker so that we can kind of get it in and round it out. But I would like that's to kind of be an intro into us training these classes, a little bit slower. So I'm going to dive right into kind of what they are and how to explain them. How about if you guys just kind of get some more interaction? As I'm sure you've heard me say before on Mondays, I'm getting tired of hearing my own voice. So I would love for you guys to unmute yourself and take turns reading what each one is. So Michaela, you're at the top of my screen. So would you mind reading step 1 or what the first one is? So the number 1 of the 6 personal perspectives is commit to self-mastery.
Okay, like what do I
Read the
guess.
next to it, yeah.
Okay, the I'm gonna nail it part.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna nail it. I'm gonna master this.
Okay, so what does that mean to you?
Just I guess to me it's like the manifesting it to happen, like speaking it into existence,
I love
but like
that.
truly believing it, because then it will end up happening.
Amazing. While you're unmuted, go ahead and do the next one.
Okay. The commit to the 80/20 principle, I'm gonna focus on my big rocks.
Does that make any sense to you? And we're gonna go over the slide what that might mean. Have you ever heard anyone talk about the 80/20 or big rocks?
I feel like I've heard about the 80/20. I just haven't heard like the big rocks with it.
Okay. Well, we're gonna talk about, I won't put you on the spot. We'll talk about that here in a couple minutes. Thank you. All right, Carmisha, can you read the next 2?
I am purposeful about breaking through my ceiling of achievement.
Awesome. So that's moving E to P. Does that make sense? Do we know what E to P means? Or what that's you know, what that means, stands for, I
Um,
guess.
I mean, I'm guessing it means to
I'll tell you,
keep
E
going.
stands for entrepreneurship and
Mhm.
P stands for purposeful. So that means moving from entrepreneur to purposeful. Go on to the next one.
Um, make being lesson, make being learning based the foundation of your action. I am willing to be taught. I am always pursue learning. I always pursue learning.
Awesome. Thank you. And the fact that you guys are always here tells me that that one will definitely speak to each of you. So thank you, Carmisha. Allison, can you read the last two?
Remove your limiting beliefs. I unlimit my thinking and my success. And then be accountable. It's mine. I own it.
Um, what are when you read those, what comes to mind?
Just not limiting yourself um so you don't block yourself from your own success.
Yes, exactly.
And then being accountable is just owning it and owning your own actions and your success as well.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
All right. So again, if you guys have a pad and paper or whatever, you can drop it in the chat, whatever's easiest for you. We're going to have a little exercise here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because I really want to be able to get through all 6 today. So defining the 6 personal perspectives and the challenge that we're going to go into for the first thing is how would you change? I'm sorry, how would you change? What would you do that you're waiting to be done because you think you'll be here forever? So basically what I interpret that to mean is, what's something that I could accomplish or do in my life that I have this idea, and I'm going to tell you just from personal experience, something does really happen when you turn 51. It didn't happen to me when I turned 50, but when I turned 51, it did, where I had this, I got plenty of time attitude. And then all of a sudden you turn 51 and you're like, whoa, more of my life is now behind me for certain. We don't often live to 100, right? So more of my life is behind me. So if there's things that I want to do, then I better get on it now. So basically that's what I interpret that sentence to mean. So like, what would 3 things be on your list that you like to accomplish in your life that you're, hanging in there thinking, I got plenty of time to do it? I'll give you guys a couple minutes to write those on paper, put them in the chat. And then maybe we'll just each share one. While you guys are writing those down, because I hate quiet, empty space. I'll just tell you, one is something that you guys know, probably because you hear me talking about all the time. For me, is happening right now in my life. There's that again thought of, oh my gosh, I'm now in my 50s and most of my life is behind me. And the things that I want to do, what am I so afraid of? And I better start doing it. So one of those things for me just this past year was to sell my house and build a house. It was just something that I always wanted to hopefully be able to do. I gotta be honest, I'm having a little bit of imposter syndrome right now with it. Even every time I go out and I'm looking at the property and now I'm looking at my house going up, I am having that imposter syndrome feeling, which is so strange. I don't know why, but either way, I knew it was now or never. So we, went ahead and decided to do it. So that's the kind of thing like that I'm not expecting all of these things to be work related. This is your answers, your personal journey. So if you guys, if anybody would like to unmute theirself and tell me just one thing if you have one, and everyone doesn't have to, but if you all like to, you can.
One for me would be to buy a dream home.
I love it. What does that look like for you when you envision that? What is the dream you're dreaming? Like, do you dream of that as just a home, or when you said dream home, do you have an image in mind? How big is that? Like, what big, but meaning this, what are you allowing yourself to have the bigger dream of it being something is dreamy? You know what I'm saying? Like, not just, let's not limit ourselves to, I want it to be this, but what takes it to that next level that makes it the dream home?
Um, I guess I didn't really think about it that far.
Or are you letting, I guess this, and I'm not asking for specifics like, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths.
Right.
I'm meaning, are you letting yourself dream it big enough? Really is the question.
Right. And that's why I did say dream home because I actually had on my paper buying a home, but to
Okay.
dream bigger, I would like it to be like you said, exactly everything that I would want. So,
Yep. And that's the point about goals, right? Oftentimes we're afraid to dream too big because the fear of disappointment.
mhm,
And then that will fall into those limiting beliefs category, right? Like, you have to dream a bigger dream for yourself. And then even if you only get halfway there, isn't that still going to end up being bigger than you anticipated if you dreamt it small?
right.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. All right. Moving on. Defining the 6 personal perspectives. Um, Here's a reality checker. What is your goal? How are you doing with your goal? How do you feel about that? And what will your future look like if you don't achieve that goal? So I think you guys maybe we talked about this in a couple classes, and this is an exercise that we do in Bold. And for the sake of time, again, all these slides are in the drive, so you guys can access them. To go back, I really would encourage you to, and I'm recording this class today, and go back and spend some more time on this. Um, I didn't only want to spend today on half of the 6 personal perspectives. I really wanted this to be sort of an intro in, so we're going to go through it faster than I'd like. And really, this particular training is meant to be an in-person only workshop where we have actually partners to do things with. I pulled a bunch of the slides out because of that. So one of the things that we do is a bold exercise. We did it a couple years ago, when I was in bold, was this: writing 2 letters to yourself and to your family. And one of those letters say, these were the dreams and goals and what I dream of success being in my future. And here's the things that I'm going to do to make that happen. And the second letter is the letter that says, because I didn't do the things that I knew I needed to do to make it happen, these goals and dreams that I had for myself, my future, and my family didn't happen. So that's an apology letter. And the instructor, who by the way is Scott Toombs, who's our instructor this year for Bold, he was the one who was training it when I first heard this exercise. And he literally said, he has these 2 letters in an envelope on a magnet like clip on his refrigerator, where he looks at them every day and motivates himself to, which letter do I want my family to open? Do I want them to open the apology letter that says, I knew these were the 10 things I needed to do to be successful for us to be able to live the life that I wanted, which were these things. And I'm sorry because I didn't do it. Or the letter that says, I'm working towards or working on these 10 things that I need to be doing, which is my goal so that we can in fact live the life that we want. I felt that that was so impactful, which honestly, that was maybe 4 years ago. It really spoke to me and it made me feel like, okay, what are you waiting for? Get up and do the things. Stop letting things get in the way to, reaching your goal, if that makes sense. All right. diving in. The first one is, oops, I keep touching the wrong thing. Commit to self-mastery. The possession of great knowledge, skills, and habits that makes you the master of you. That looks a little different for everybody. But I'll say this, self-mastery could be, maybe that's somebody who is a finance guru. Maybe that's somebody who is a doctor. Maybe that's somebody who is in sales. And what does that look like for you? So it could be anything. This isn't specific to real estate. But when you commit to achieving that, you know your goals for starters. How can we achieve goals if we don't know what they are? So I always break down goals like the main goal, which is to do this thing. And then it's just too big. It's just too big to, on a daily basis, be able to just thinking about that main goal. If you don't chunk that down into little mini goals. So for example, we talk about this all the time in lead gen type environments, but if my goal is to sell 25 houses this year, then what do those numbers work down to on a daily and weekly basis? Well, we know nationally, the average is if you can get one new appointment every single week, so that's 4 new appointments a month, you can sell 25 houses. So then it's, okay, what do I need to do every day to get one new appointment? Just one. It makes it seem so small. I'm not sure if all of you did, but I know some of you did go through Jake's agent action plan week in the locker room. And I think it was on maybe day one where we went through those numbers where you had to break down based on your main goal, exactly how many calls or outreaches you had to make to get one new appointment. So a new appointment would be defined as, I haven't already been talking to them. I haven't already showed them a house or went on a listing appointment there. That's a new appointment. So anything I need to do to get just one person to agree to work with me will then be equivalent to 25 transactions in a year. And then you break it further to make it small little bite-sized pieces. Then each day, how many hours do I need to work and what activities do I need to spend my time on to make that happen? Knowing your strengths and weaknesses. So knowing what I'm good at. So I can tell you I'm good once I get started. Once I get started, there's no stopping me. There's no one gonna get in my way. I'm gonna finish. I'll be honest, like if I can be a crazy person when it comes to cleaning. And if I'm on a warpath cleaning, everyone better get out of my way because I don't care if it's midnight. If I haven't completed the task, I am going to keep plugging away. No kidding, when I'm doing yard work in the spring, if I have a project that I want to finish and it's dark out, I have had my husband bring the big spotlights out so I can finish. Maybe I'm a little OCD, I don't know, but I know that's a strength of mine, completing the task. The weakness could be starting it. So like, I know I have to do this thing. Once I get in it, I'm good. So knowing what that looks like for yourself and then also knowing how to get over that hump of that weakness and plugging forward, whatever that thing is for you. And then of course, how that incorporates into, your work. Oops. Yep, I guess it was all I have for that one. All right, step 2, commit to the 80-20 principle and then what that is. So there's a balance in life and a balance in everything that we do. They say that 80% of what we do only brings 20% of the results. So how can I then have 20%? So here's an example. As a real estate agent, I'll make it relevant to you in your day, because that can be interpreted many ways. 80% of my day as a real estate agent is spent on not real estate activities like you think. 20% of my day is spent on those appointments and preparing for appointments. 80% of my day is spent on lead generation, building my database activities. So when someone first gets licensed and they come in and they ask me, what is it? Someone just asked me this yesterday that I was talking to. What does a day in the life of a real estate agent at Keller Williams look like? And I said, well, it looks very similar to the day in the life of any real estate agent that's trying to find success at any company. It does look a little bit different here at KW because of all the support and training that we have. But in the end, take the training, support, classes, meetings out of it. If you're not spending 80% of your day doing lead and by 80%, don't mistake, that doesn't mean 8 hours. If you're working 2 hours a day on real estate, then how much of that is 80%? So that way you can be spending your time on those lead generating activities so that the other 20% of your day is on the appointments. And maybe that's not by the day. Maybe that's to you by the week. For some people, maybe it's by the month, but however you incorporate that. But you must know as a real estate agent, if I was spending my time, 80% of my time on appointments, wow, like I don't know. I better have built an empire and a staff of people that were doing the work so that I could spend so much time on appointments. So interpret that however you will, but the point is you're not spending 80% of the day on actually going out on listing appointments or working with buyers. It's 20. All right. So when we talk about that, and we were talking about this here a couple minutes ago, the big rocks come first. So there's a video, I think I might be put it in the chat a little bit ago, and I love it. It's this college professor, and he's got a room full of students, and he starts asking questions. I would definitely go back and look for it. I'll put it in the chat again. But you have a mason jar, and you start filling it up. And he had big rocks, sand, water, pebbles on his desk. And if you filled that jar with water first, all the way to the top, would you be able to get the other items in the jar? You would not. So he starts with the biggest rocks first. So that's our big rock. What's the big rock first? Can I fit all these things in this jar? So imagine that analogy is my day, perhaps. If I put the big rocks in first, then I can put the pebbles in, and then I can put the sand in, and then I could put the water in, and now it all fits. But if you try to put the sand in first, will there be room for the pebbles and the big rocks? There won't be. So then how do we interpret that into our day? So the most important things have to come first, and those are the big rocks. Can anyone interpret that into an example of what that might look like in your real estate day? No?
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I guess. But so like whenever you wake up, like how even like on at Dominate Your Week or any other class, like we talk about how like we wake up, we go on social media, wish the happy birthdays, do the likes, the comments, everything like that. Like just that starts out our day, and then from there you do more lead gen, like the time blocking uh thing that
So here's what I'll say is so you bring up a good point. So setting your time blocking, so doing the time blocking for your day or for the week, that's probably a pebble, right?
right.
The big rock would be actually following it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for diving in there. I don't want to spend too much time on this because we've got a few more to go through, but there's some really good examples, and this leads to this here, making a success list and not a to-do list. So like, again, this goes into what you said, Michaela, and time blocking. What does that success list look like? Be very specific on what you're going to do. It's kind of like when I tell you guys, come to a lead generating session with the people that you're going to reach out to and what you're going to say. That's a success list, not just I'm going to lead generate. All right. there's a couple of really good examples in here of a agent 411. So an agent 411 is kind of like if we take our GPS and break it down into daily activities. So there's a great example of that in here, but I want to dive into the next one, which is moving from E to P. And as I said, that's entrepreneur to purposeful. So here's some examples of what that looks like, but I'm going to make it real relevant to you. I remember when I was in a leadership meeting, Jose, our owner here, used to come to our leadership meetings weekly. And I'll never forget, maybe I was 2 years into coaching or so. And he looked at me and said, you know, the program's going great. You've been really doing good in the whole entrepreneur stage, but I think it's time you take it to more purposeful. And I was like, I don't understand what that means. And he said, you know, when you're in the entrepreneur stage, for me as a coach or you as an agent, it's when you're exploring. You're exploring. What do I want to do? How am I formulating this business that I'm creating? And I'm going to, you know, do a little of this and a little of that. And I'm going to do some content creation and I'm going to do some of these things. But then now it's good now. It's okay. You've got a solid foundation. But how do I then take it to the next step, make it more purposeful? So for me, that meant, okay, so now I have to stop exploring. And now I have to take what the most important things are, you know, finding that one thing that's going to work and make it better. So be more purposeful in the things that you're doing and dig in deeper. So for you guys could be like focusing on, you know, for sale by owners and expired listings and open houses and doing some social media and all these different things that you're exploring. And once you start to find some success in one or three of those, you're going to start digging in deeper. And then you're going to go forward with it with the purpose of, okay, this is the thing I'm doing. This is how I have figured out to be successful at it. And now I'm going to dig in deeper and put that into my day. If that makes sense. All right, being learning based. Obviously, this shouldn't be a too hard of one considering we're here at KW where we're learning constantly. I mean, like obviously you've seen the calendar. There's practically 1 to 2 things that you can do every day, which is super, super important. However, bottom line is if we don't do the work that we're learning about, then it was just entertainment, or maybe it's not even entertainment. I don't know, but action is where you're going to find those results. However, the foundation of that though does in fact come from learning and education. High achievers know that education is something that never ends. So like even, you know, for me, even Jose, who owns now 4 KW brokerages, he has a coach. I think it's funny to me when people think I've hit the top of the mountain and now I don't need training anymore. Well, how is that so when even our leaders have coaches still? And I bring that up because recently somebody said to me, you know, I think I've learned all that I can learn and I'm, you know, I'm ready to be done with coaching. And they're in phase 3, so it's an indefinite phase. So they certainly have that opportunity to phase out of it. But I just thought, wow, okay, so tell me more. What, you know, where are you at and what makes you think that you're at that point? When again, we know that high achievers are always seeking more training and more learning to make things better. I mean, 15 years of my career was spent at other brokerages, and I've learned more in the 9 years at KW than all those 25 years together. So, and that's because of learning. So we want to always have that be a, you know, a mindset to be always be learning based. All right. I love this one, which is remove your limiting beliefs. So high achievers don't let their beliefs or limiting beliefs hold them back. Here's a limiting belief. I'm going to throw Carmisha back in this. That dream house is too big. I'll never get it. That's a limiting belief. I probably had a limiting belief at one point, I'm certain I did, that although we live in a beautiful home and, you know, we worked hard to have it 25 years ago, that we'll never probably be able to afford to build a house. Or our life wouldn't put us in a position to be able to build a house because, I got to sell my house. Where am I going to live? Will the bank say yes? All these things. So a limiting belief at one point for me was that's too big of a dream. It's never going to happen. And here we are. So I think that's why I say I have a little bit of imposter syndrome, because it's kind of like, wow, I can't believe that dream is happening. And so like, don't limit those things in your mind. Don't think that they can't happen, because it cripples you then to not move forward in the motion and the steps that will cause you to be able to achieve those goals. So it will hold you back if you have those limiting beliefs. So we need to remove those things out of our mindset. Now, do you think that that means be a crazy daydreamer who's dreaming up constantly things that are a figment of our imagination that doesn't require hard work? No, I didn't dream that this pot of gold was going to fall from the sky or something like that, right? You have to still have a plan, but first start with removing those limiting beliefs. And then how are you going to do it? How are you going to move forward? What are the things that you're going to be able to succeed on because you've removed those beliefs? It's a motivation, right? If we don't have limiting beliefs, we can have a motivational thought of, here's the goal and I'm motivated to achieve that. Could anyone give me an example in their life, what might be now or in the past, something that was a limiting belief? Maybe it's something that's holding you back right now. Or like my example, maybe it's something that you had a limiting belief about and now you're living the thing that you thought could never happen. Or questions around that? Nope. Okay, well, we will move on to the last. Be accountable. So all of that wraps up with a nice big red bow to being accountable. Being accountable is partly having a coach and having someone to hold you accountable, holding yourself accountable by having your goals written down and then looking at them regularly. A part of being accountable is the difference between being a victim and a person who's accountable. So a victim doesn't seek reality. And as I said, don't be a daydreamer on unrealistic beliefs and goals and thoughts. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm going to sell 100 houses this year, because I know that's not going to happen. But I am going to sell maybe 20. That might be a reasonable goal, right? So that an accountable person seeks the reality. A victim fights the reality, and then an accountable person acknowledges that reality. A victim blames people, and a person who's accountable owns it. So for example, someone who gets into real estate who hops brokerages because they think, well, Keller Williams can't help me, maybe the brokerage down the street can. That's the blame game. We're all our own business. If you can't make it happen here or wherever you're at, it doesn't have to be here. An agent can be successful at whatever brokerage they're at. Obviously, people sell houses all over the country at different brokerages. It's all in what you're going to do. Blaming where you're at or your circumstances isn't going to help anybody, and it certainly isn't going to help you. Owning it will help you then finding out and seeking those problem-solving skills to figure out how you can make it work. Personal excuses or finding solutions. So to me, I am a problem solver. So I'm always seeking the solution and not spending too much time on the reason or excuse. I do think that there's a difference between excuses and reasons. An excuse might be something that wasn't what kept you from doing a thing, but it kept you from doing it because you allowed yourself for it to, versus a reason. For example, I didn't make it to the class in person because I got into a car accident on the highway, and legitimately you did. That's a reason. That's not an excuse. An excuse would be, something like, I didn't get up in time. Well, okay, well, maybe you could have set your alarm, or you're making excuses for things that you could have controlled. Waits and hopes. So again, being in that delusional state of waiting and hoping something's going to happen versus getting on it and actually working hard towards it. And that's just little bits every day, guys. Like, we just have to get on it a little bit every day. It's not I actually have to spend 8 hours every day. This is grueling on lead generation. We just have to do a little bit every day to be able to continue then to add to that pile, and then be able to do more. So this is a little bit of an exercise that I would tell you to go back in and do to kind of, figure out, what is your goal? How am I going to do it? How do I feel about that? And, kind of on through that graph. Career growth initiative. So you guys have heard me mention perhaps the CGI calculator. This brings us back to the agent action plan that Jake hosted day one. He called it something else, but basically it's the same. It's a CGI calculator, and that means how many appointments do I need to go on to get how many listings and buyer contracts signed to get how many closings to be able to profit how much money. So it's called a CGI calculator. We have that in our system in Command through Connect if you wanted to use it. But Jake has a really great one in the locker room as well to figure those numbers out. I believe it was day one of Agent Action Plan, and he has that worksheet in there. If you guys didn't do that, but I'm pretty sure I saw you guys there. So you probably did. But then to take that a step further, you need to figure out, well, how do I get to number one? How do I get to how many appointments I need to be able to have how much profit? So that's where you take it to, how many hours a day do I need to spend on what activities to get that one new appointment? So that's how you map out your week. How do I spend 1 hour on Monday, maybe 2 hours on Wednesday, like whatever that looks for you. It's not a set in stone thing. Everyone's business looks different. Everyone's goals are different. But based on your goals, how do I map out my week? How much time am I carving out to do these things? And then what am I doing during that time? So that way I can get that appointment. Here's what I'll tell you I know that is the biggest problem with agents succeeding in their goals, and it's called consistency. I can tell you, I work for free, I work for free, I work for free until I don't. I don't stop working for free because I'm tired of working for free. And let me tell you, I'm tired of working for free. But that's our job. When we all chose a job in real estate, we knew that we were going to be an independent contractor, and we were going to be a 1099 person who did not get a paycheck on Friday. So that means that just because we didn't get the results we were looking for at the end of the week doesn't mean we stop. You have to keep pushing forward. And then you need to figure out what those numbers look like for you. So back to bottom line here, becoming a high achiever is someone who commits to self-mastery, understands and commits to the 80-20 principle, moves from E to P, and is very committed to being learning based, but also putting that into action, removing those limiting beliefs so it can be a stumbling block that gets out of your way so that you can continue to push forward to your success and goals, and to wrap that all up, being accountable. So you guys are accountable to yourself because here you are, and you come to classes and you come to coaching, but at the end of the day, the accountability comes to, I've set this goal for myself. How do I do it? How does that look in my week, my day, my month, or however you're breaking down your work day? And am I achieving those mini goals throughout the day and throughout the week to be able to, achieve the main goal, which is how many houses am I going to sell, or how much money do I need to make? It's also why I'm going to stop share. real quick here, that next month, everything that we do in coaching is going to be geared around lead generation. We're doing nothing but lead generation topics throughout the entire month. And luck would have it that the locker room trainings for the whole month of April just came out, and everything that's on Tuesday is surrounded around lead generating activities. So lucky that that was my topic for the month, and it kind of just fell into place perfectly. So I would say this for you all, one of your commitments should be when that April calendar comes out, start by time blocking what you're coming to. I'm sad to say, but also I'm happy to say, unfortunately for some of you, every single thing that we're doing in the month of April is going to be in person only. It's not going to be on Zoom because it is lead generation activities. There's nothing to Zoom about with that. I have guests coming to group script with us together for the first 15 minutes, and then it's lead gen. So if you're serious about your goals and you want to get a paycheck in June, be committed to your April training calendar, digging into the locker room modules and showing up on the Tuesday classes, but don't just show up. Do the activities. That's where the sales come from. It's from the activities. No one knows or cares that we came to the training if we don't do the activities. So thank you guys so much. We're going to wrap it up here because I can see I've got a room full of people ready to come in here and take over. But any thoughts or last minute questions before we end it today?
No questions, but thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you guys so much for coming. We'll
Thank
see
you.
ya.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.